Awesome. So thank you for joining us today. We're going to be talking about accepting your offer of admission and, of course, how to make your college decision. Right. So my name is Hector Favela. I'm the first-year persistence specialist for CALSOAP LA. So I help students out with college applications, financial aid, pretty much anything college or career related, and I help students make their transition to college. A little bit more about me. I graduated from Southgate High School, class of 2016. After that, I went to Santa Monica College for 2 years, and I transferred to UCLA, where I earned my bachelor's degree in political science. Currently, I'm a graduate student at LMU. I'm in the guidance and counseling program there, and hopefully I will be graduating in just a few months.
Hi, everybody. My name is Lizette Loeda. I am a student success coach with CALSOAP. I graduated from Southeast High School in 2017, and I'm currently attending Cal State Dominguez Hills to get my bachelor's in psychology.
Perfect. Thank you, Liz. All right, so a little bit more about CALSOAP for those of you guys who aren't familiar. So we work in predominantly disadvantaged communities, like low-income communities around like Southeast LA, downtown LA, Pasadena, El Monte. Like I said earlier, we help students out with mostly college applications, financial aid. Like I said, anything college or career related, we are practically the go-to person on campus. All right, so today's agenda, we're going to be splitting up our presentation into two parts. So the first part I will go ahead and cover, and then the second part will be Lizette. So the first part, we're going to be talking about things to consider when making your college decision, as far as the major, the location, financial aid, and some of the resources and opportunities on campus. And then I'm going to be passing the torch to Lizette. She's going to be covering accepting your offer of admission, the statement of intent to register, a quick tutorial on how to do it. We're going to be talking about summer melt, and of course, we're going to answer some frequently asked questions. All right, so in the upcoming weeks, you guys are going to start receiving some of your admissions letters. Right, so it's really important that you guys are checking your portals frequently. I always recommend at least check it once a week, but don't go more than 2 weeks without checking it, because obviously we want to know if you got in or not, and you want to check if you have any documents to turn in. So again, in the next coming weeks, you guys are going to start hearing back from schools, and then it's time to decide what school you want to attend. Right, so these are the things you want to consider when you're making your college decision. Of course, the major, the location, financial aid, resources and opportunities, and we're going to be covering that little by little in the next few slides. All right, so major and the area of study. Right, so the things to consider, the questions that I have here on this slide are some questions that I want you to ask yourself when you're thinking about what school you want to go to. Right, so the number one question is, what major is your top choice? Right, do you want to study administration of justice? Do you want to get into real estate? Do you want to work on cars? Right, that's a very important question to keep in mind, because not every single school has that major. I'm sure some of you guys may have seen on the Cal State or the UC application. For example, a lot of the Cal States will have the major of administration of justice, but then if you look at the UC application, they don't have that, and you probably had to pick something differently. Right, so you want to ask yourself, what colleges admitted you with your top choice major? If you got into a school that doesn't have what you want to study, then that's something you need to consider, because you're going to be learning about this for the next 3 to 4 years of your life. And you want to make sure that it's something that you're passionate about, that it's something that you enjoy learning, because like I said, the next 3 to 4 years, this is what you're going to be learning about. And you want to make sure that you're going to be able to study, you're going to be able to major in something that you really like. Right, let's say you're in the case that you don't really know what you want to study. That's perfectly okay. That's totally normal. And changing majors in college is a totally normal process. A lot of people do it. And just to give you like some statistics, on average, students change their major 2 to 3 times. Right, so don't be afraid to change your major. It's perfectly normal. We just want you to keep in mind, what do you want to study? So you make sure that you go to a school that actually has what you want to study. Right, so obviously in order to do this, you're going to have to do some homework. You're going to start researching schools, start comparing the schools that you got into, to make sure that you have that they have the major that you want to learn about. Right, because we want to make sure that you graduate with the correct degree, the certificate, or license. So for example, I always have a lot of students that come up to me and tell me that they want to major in real estate, and unfortunately they think that they have to go to Cal State or a UC or any four-year university in order to become a real estate agent. But a lot of students don't know that. In order to become a real estate agent, you only have to have your license. You don't have to go to a four-year university to get a bachelor's degree, etc. You just have to have your license, right? So you can go to community college and do a program there for a year or two, and then you can still become the real estate agent that you wanted to do. So that's something to keep in mind. You don't always have to go to a four-year university in order to do what you really want to do. So I just wanted to give you guys some examples here, because some programs are school specific. So for example, at the community college level, we have some of the local community colleges like Rio Hondo, West LA, or LA Trade Tech. They all offer school specific programs. So for example, Rio Hondo College is known for their fire technology program. There's a picture of it right on the top right. West LA College is known for their aviation program. And then LA Trade Tech is known for their culinary arts program as well.
Sorry, Hector, can I jump in?
Yes, of course.
Just also note that just because you don't need a degree for a real estate, or you don't need certain degrees for certain programs, community colleges, if you go to community college and you take one of their programs, you can possibly take the program for free. So yeah, you can go to another trade and pay, or take a program and pay for it. But the reality is if you go to a community college, you can most likely take those classes for free if you get that community college, the college promise grant. So just take note of that when you're choosing your schools and the programs that are available to you, because if you don't have to pay for it, please don't. A lot of these programs are free. A lot of them offer so many opportunities for students. And honestly, these schools are out there with their networking programs. They have such awesome opportunities for students. So please take advantage of that, especially when choosing your schools.
Awesome. Thank you, Lizette. Perfect. So next we're going to be talking about financial aid a little bit. So once you start hearing back from schools, the schools that admit you will start sending you an award letter. Some schools also refer to it as a financing plan. So I wanted to show you guys some screenshots of what it will look like. Right, so some of the UCs, they call this the financing plan, and it's just a breakdown of like how much it's going to cost to go there. And then it'll give you a breakdown of how much you're going to be receiving in financial aid if you decide to go to that school. Right, so this is for one of the UCs. For other schools, it's going to look like this. Again, they're both the exact same thing. They just look a little bit differently. It's just a breakdown of how much money you're going to be receiving. Right, so on this next slide, we wanted to talk a little bit more about the financial aid structure and give you guys some definitions, because I'll be honest, I didn't really know how to read my financial aid award letter until like my junior year of college, when I had a counselor like explain it to me, like kind of dumb it down, because it was just so complicated. So I want to make sure that you guys already know how to read your financial aid package before you even make your college decision. Right, so as I mentioned earlier, this is a screenshot of what some colleges will send you. Again, it's either a awards letter or a financing plan. So the first thing we wanted to cover are grants and scholarships. So if you notice right here, it'll tell you these are the scholarships and grants that the student received. And then it'll give you a breakdown by federal. That means like the federal government gave the student this much. Institutional grant, that means the institution or the college that the student is going to is going to give them this much money. And then state grants, that'd be the state of California is offering student this much money. So whenever you see scholarships and grants, that's awesome. That's what we always want, to get the most of, because it's free money and you don't have to pay it back. So you can kind of think of grants as the same thing as a scholarship. It's money from the government or money from the school to help you pay for college. And the best thing about it is that you don't have to pay it back. Again, it's a gift, it's free money. So you don't have to pay it back. So that's why we always want to make sure that your financial aid package consists of mostly grants and scholarships. That's the best thing. The next one that a lot of people get worried about is loans. So again, a loan is money that you'll have to borrow and you're going to have to pay it back once you're done with school, right? If you notice here on the students' loan options, they have quite a few, but we're just going to be focusing on the first two, the subsidized loan and the unsubsidized loan. The way I always explain it to all my students is think of it as covered and uncovered, right? So when you're going to school, a subsidized loan is covered. That means that it's not going to grow interest while you're attending school. So essentially, let's say this student takes out the loan of $3,500. By the time they graduate, that loan is not going to get any bigger. It's going to stay the same. So if freshman year, you decide to borrow $3,500, by the time you graduate as a senior, you're still just going to owe those $3,500. It's not going to get bigger. Compared to the unsubsidized loan, think of it as uncovered. So this loan, as soon as you take it out, is going to start growing interest. It's going to start getting bigger and bigger, little by little, every single year, right? So those are some things to keep in mind when you're thinking about, your financial aid package. Again, grants and scholarships are the best thing that you can get. You don't have to pay that money back. And then of course, loans, it depends on the kind. If you get a subsidized loan, that's good. It's not going to grow until after you finish college. And then the unsubsidized loan, it's going to start growing immediately once you take it out until you pay it off, right? Last but not least, we wanted to talk about the work study option. So right here on the right, you'll see the student was offered $3,500 a year in work study. So essentially, work study is an opportunity for you to work on campus, whether it's at the library, at the bookstore, at the counseling office, anywhere on campus. And then you could work there and you can make extra money. So this student is limited to $3,500 a year. That's how much the student can make a school year to work somewhere on campus. So it's something to keep in mind. It can come in handy if you ever need to buy some books or anything like that. Work study is always a great option. Right, so a couple more things to consider when we're talking about financial aid. So again, what does your financial aid award look like? Remember, grants and scholarships are the best. The more money you get in grants and scholarships, the less money you're gonna have to worry about taking out in loans. You probably won't even have to work as much. Something to keep in mind. So if a college is offering you a lot of money in grants and scholarships, that's great. That means you're probably not gonna have to take out loans depending on your situation, right? So I wanted to make sure that you guys keep these next things in mind when you're deciding what college to go to, because each of the following is going to impact how much money you're going to have to pay, or if you're going to have to take out loans, or it's going to affect your financial aid situation one way or another, right? So are you going to be living on campus, or are you going to be commuting? When we say commuting, that means you're going to be driving, you're probably living at your parents' house or at a family member's house. So just keep in mind, it's always cheaper to commute than living on campus. There are some schools that charge upwards of over $10,000 a school year just for you to live on campus. Obviously, if you live on campus, it's part of the experience, and it can be great for networking and taking advantage of opportunities. But if money is going to play a key role in your decision, just keep in mind that commuting might be a better option because you're going to save a lot of money, right? The next thing, if you do decide to live on campus, what kind of dorm are you going to have? For example, are you going to have a suite? Are you going to have a plaza? Are you going to have an apartment? Are you going to live in one of the communal buildings, or a suite? So those things are something that you're going to have to keep in mind. The communal dorms, those are ones where you share the entire floor. You share restrooms and showers with the entire floor. So those are obviously the cheaper options versus getting a suite where it's just like a one person in the dorm kind of situation. So those are going to be more expensive. And of course, the meal plan. The more meals you eat per week, the more expensive it's going to be. So just some things you want to keep in mind in regards to financial aid. All right, the next one is the location or the environment of the school that you're going to be going to. Right, so a question you want to ask yourself is, do you want to stay local, or do you want to try something new? Right, how close do you want to be? How close to home do you want to be? So like, for example, if you were to go to like Cal State Long Beach or Cal State Fullerton, those might be situations where you can probably drive home a couple times a week if you want to like see your parents or your family members, if you want to grab a meal, or if you need to do laundry at your house, compared to a school like let's say San Diego State or UC Santa Barbara, or that's like a 2-hour drive. So realistically, you probably won't be able to come home as many days as you would like to, but you can probably still come home on the weekends. Or if you go to school like on the East Coast, or in the South, it might not be a situation where you can come home that frequently, just because flights aren't that cheap. So maybe you only come home for like Thanksgiving break, winter break, or spring break. So that's something you want to keep in mind. How often do you want to come home, and do you want to stay local, or you don't mind traveling a little bit more, right? The very last question we have for some of you guys is, do you have any responsibilities that you have to keep in mind? So for example, I often work with students who have to take care of their younger siblings because their parents work a lot. So maybe going to a school in the Bay or out of state isn't the best situation for them. So maybe, finding a close middle ground, where school's not too far away, that, they can still come home a couple of times a week if they need help. All right. This next one is about the environment. A lot of people often look over this part, but environment plays a really key role in your experience at the school that you go to. So for example, some questions you want to ask yourself is, do you want to stay in California? Do you want to, stay in LA? Do you want to move to the Bay, or do you want to go out of state? Those things you want to consider, because the environment is very different from LA. I'll tell you this, like, from experience, the more I have traveled, the more I've come to realize how much of a privilege it is to live in LA, because the weather is so much better than, some of the other places in the country where they have to deal with like humidity or hurricanes or tornadoes. And we just, sometimes we'll complain because it's too hot, or it's a little bit too cold and it's barely like 70 or 60 degrees. So keep in mind that in other states, it could be rainy all the time or snowing frequently. These are some things that you want to keep in mind. Another thing you want to consider is, does the college require non-local students to live on campus? So there are very few colleges that still do this, but one of them is San Diego State. So this means that if you don't live within a certain proximity of the college or university, they require you to live on campus for your first year or your first years. So San Diego State is one of these schools where I don't know the proximity, the mile proximity specifically, but I know for sure, like if you were to be from like the LA area and you wanted to go to San Diego State, you have to live on campus for your first 2 years, right? So some things to keep in mind, of course, like I mentioned earlier, the weather, what's it like? Is it rainy? Is it gloomy? Is it snowing during the winter time? Do you feel comfortable living in that environment? So just some things to keep in mind. And then of course, what is there to do off of campus? So yes, your number one priority is always going to be, hitting the books and going to class. But of course, on the weekends, it's your time to kind of decompress and like de-stress from everything kind of going on in the classroom. So it's only natural to want to explore outside of campus. So some things you might want to ask yourself is like, are there amusement parks? Is there other things I could do, like bowling or movie theaters, shopping malls? So some things to keep in mind, because like I said, apart from hitting the books, you're going to want to explore once you're in that college environment and you have a little bit more autonomy, right? The last thing I want you to consider when it comes to location and environment is that this is a once in a lifetime experience, right? Because for the next 3 to 4 years of your life, you got to decide pretty much everything. You got to decide what you want to study. You got to decide where you want to live, how much time you want to dedicate to certain things, whether it be clubs or schoolwork or, hanging out with your friends. So don't be afraid to, go out of state. Don't be afraid to, travel up north to the Bay. This is a once in a lifetime experience. And hey, if you don't like it, that's totally okay. Like in 3 to 4 years, once you're done with your degree, you can just move back to LA or move back in with your parents. But don't be afraid to try something new, especially if you're really interested in trying, a different experience or, a different environment. All right. And last but not least, some of the things I'll be talking about next are resources and opportunities. So the campus culture, the culture at the school that you go to is going to, again, play a big role in your experience there. So some things you want to keep in mind are like big schools versus small schools. To give you like an example, I went to UCLA, which is obviously a pretty big school. There's over like 40,000 students, but I don't think I was mentally prepared for that. I kind of just expected to be in classrooms with like 30 or 40 other students. But there were some classes where I took where there was like over 150 students. And sometimes it would like, you had to make sure you get to class on time or else you weren't going to, you weren't going to have a place to sit. Another class I took, which was my psychology class, there was over 400 students and the classroom was the size of my like high school auditorium. So some things you want to keep in mind. Class sizes, do you think you're going to do better at like a private school where there's less students in the class? Or do you feel comfortable, sitting in one of those big lecture halls with like 100 other students, right? Keep in mind, this is gonna impact your experience and your ability to network, not only with other students, but also with your professor. So for example, when I took those classes with like 100 other students or 400 other students, my professors didn't know my name. At the same time, it didn't bother me, but I know for other students, they want to have that close relationship with their professor. So that's something you want to keep in mind. Big school versus small school. Are there any organizations that you really want to join? And if so, you want to make sure that the school you're planning to go to actually has them. So like if you're interested in joining a fraternity or a sorority or a certain club or student government, et cetera, you want to make sure that the school that you're going to commit to has the things that you want to do. Because like I said, college is an experience, and it's so much more than just the schoolwork and then going back to your dorm, back to the classroom. There's so much more to college than just that. So you want to make sure you keep that in mind. So when you're making your college decision, do you want to be around students with similar interests, or do you want to be around students with diverse interests and backgrounds? So you want to make sure you take that into consideration. And like I said earlier, you want to make sure you attend a school that has what you're passionate about. Because the last thing you want to do is, just go to class, go back home, because after a while it is going to get tiring, and it's only natural to want to try something new. Right, as I mentioned earlier, what interests you, and does the schools on your list provide an outlet for these extracurricular activities? So for me, I always just keep in mind, what did I do in high school, and do I want to do it again in college? So for example, in high school, I was in band, I was in student government, I was in a lot of different like volunteering groups, and I wanted to make sure that when I went to college, I was able to do those things again. Right, so that's why I kind of chose UCLA. I liked that there was just so much to do. It was such a big environment, but also I also wanted to meet people from like different like parts of the globe, and UCLA was able to provide that for me as well. So I'm just giving you like a little bit of insight into some of the things that you should consider, but just remember that college is a once in a lifetime experience, and that there's so much more to college than just what goes on in the classroom. Right. Last but not least, I want to talk to you guys about internships and research opportunities. So depending on the school that you're going to, some of them will have research opportunities. So these are like these are hands-on experiences where you get to work with a professor or a teacher's assistant and contribute to their work. So sometimes, for example, I studied political science. So one of my professors was doing research on elections because it was like the 2020 election was coming up. So if you wanted to volunteer, you could always help them with that. There's also internship opportunities. If you guys aren't familiar with internships, these are paid or unpaid work experiences, and sometimes you can actually earn class credit. So to give you guys an example, the summer before my junior year at UCLA, I did an internship where I lived in Washington, D.C. for 2 months. So I was able to intern in the House of Representatives. So it was great. It was a great experience working for Congress. As a political science major, that's like the golden ticket. A lot of people want to go to DC and work with a congressman or congresswoman. And I was able to have that experience because my school offered all paid internships. So I didn't have to pay for anything. I didn't have to pay for food. I didn't have to pay for the dorming. I didn't have to pay for my flight. I didn't have to pay for anything. So if that's something that you're passionate about, you want to make sure that the school that you're planning to commit to has these kinds of opportunities for you. All right, so Liz is going to go ahead and take it home from this point on.
So you've been admitted. What's next? So we're going to look at SIRing, or a statement of intent to register. The deadline for most schools is May 1st. This is for CSUs, UCs, and privates. It is not required for community colleges. And the reason for this is because community colleges do have a 100% acceptance rate. So please do not plan on SIRing to a community college. You're going to review information with the college advisor or counselor before you SIR. So you're going to need to go over your financial aid package, your housing situation, whether you're going to commute. It's going to be a lot of decision making. You're going to have a lot of financial aid award packages in front of you from many multiple schools that might have the major you want. So it's just going to be a lot when choosing this. So please do not wait last minute. Please start, if you have these packages already in front of you, or if you're receiving them from your schools, please start reviewing them with your college counselor. That way you can start going over them. And then some colleges require a non-refundable deposit, and it will go towards your tuition. So for example, Cal State LA does require you to pay $100. Sometimes it's waived, so it just depends on your case.
Exactly. And then if I can just kind of jump in here, Liz. So like I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, in the next couple of months, each school that you apply to will let you know whether or not you got in. Once you start hearing back from that schools or from the schools that you apply to, you got to start narrowing down your decision and decide where you want to go. Once you decide where you want to go, you're going to submit this. We call it the SIR, the Statement of Intent to Register, and you have until May 1st of this year to decide where you're going to go.
So this is an example of what a portal can look like. So this is Northridge's portal. Every portal is different. Every school is different. So please don't think they're all going to look like this. But on Northridge's portal, you can see on the My Status portion, it tells you that their intent to register, you have to accept or decline admission, is due on May 1st. So this is basically telling you like, hey, are you going to come to our school or not? You have to let us know. And that's all you have to do. And then they'll start telling you more things on what you need to complete. So please double check at every school that you've applied to if their intent to register is already on there, if you've been accepted. So this is the statement of intent for USC. And then again, like I said, it's very different. So every school is different. So frequent questions and scenarios. So what if a student is waitlisted to the top choice? You're going to accept the waitlist offer. And if they have any supplementals that they want you to complete, please complete them if you plan on being on the waitlist. And you are going to SIR to a second choice. The reason for this is because a waitlist is still a 50-50 chance you may or may not get in. So we don't want you to be like, well, I'm just going to wait for my waitlist and then I'll SIR to them, because truth be told is you might not get in. So we want to make sure that you do have your plan. You have a plan B ready for yourself, okay? So please plan for your second choice if you do get waitlisted. And then can a student SIR to 2+ schools? It's a case-by-case basis, so it depends on the school. It depends on what program you're planning on applying to. Again, like I said, at a community college, just because they do have an 100% acceptance rate, please do not apply to more than one school. You will only be applying to one school. So once you apply, please register. Please plan on, that's the only school I'm going to. And then CSUs and UCs, please talk to your college counselor about that, because again, it's a case-by-case basis. And then what if a student can't afford the SIR payment? You need to contact the admissions office, and you may need to contact the financial aid office as well. And then you're not done yet. So there's still a little bit more to go, okay? So what's next? So these are must-dos. And when we say must-dos, these things that need to be completed if you want to attend your school. This is for 4-year universities. 1, you must register for orientation. Register and you have to go. If you do not go to orientation, you will be denied admissions. Your admissions will be revoked, and you will no longer be a student at that university. You also have to send your final transcripts by July 1st. Personally speaking, please submit it way beforehand. They tell you can send it through the mail or you can fax it to them. Personally, I would take it in person, like, hey, I've been admitted, here's my transcript, especially if it's a local school. If it's not a local school, then that's a different story. But if it's local, take it in, get a receipt, and please do not miss these deadlines. They are very important. For example, when I first started at Cal State Dominguez Hills, I was actually denied admission. The reason why I was denied was because they told me that I had submitted my transcripts too late. Luckily, because it is a local school, I went in person because I really didn't trust them. So I went in person, got my receipt, and I was like, hold on, you guys are wrong. I did submit them on time. Here's the receipt. I had everything ready to go, and it was a paperwork mishap. They had too many transcripts. They lost mine. So please, please, please do things way before time, and please make sure that you guys are on top of these deadlines, okay? So community colleges has 3 steps when going into school. All students must apply online, and then you're going to complete what they call the AOC. So the first one is the assessment, and it's not actually taking any tests. All you have to do is submit your transcript so that you can tell you, hey, you're going to join this English class. Hey, you're going to join that math class. It's really not that difficult. You are going to do an orientation. Some schools do allow you to do it online. Some schools do want you to go in person. So it just depends on the community college that you're planning on attending. And please make sure you do your orientation. It's just important for community college. And then you're going to do your counseling. Your counseling, again, is going to be about you choosing your classes. They're going to help you register. So you're going to be able to speak to a college counselor on your university campus or your college campus. And then let's avoid summer mouth. So what is summer mouth? So summer mouth is kind of the anxiety of just moving on out of high school. You're becoming an adult. So you're doing what I call adulting, or what a lot of people call adulting, which I'm not gonna lie, sometimes it's not that fun, but we gotta deal with it. We don't have any other choice. So who melts? 10 to 40% of college intending students fail to enroll in a university after graduation. And again, the reason why is because they get anxiety over things, they miss deadlines. So please do not miss deadlines. This is nothing like high school where you're like, oh, can I submit it on Friday? Unfortunately, they're like, no, you didn't turn it in on time. I'm sorry, your admissions has been revoked. Summer melt impacts students across the socioeconomic spectrum, but the rate is just disproportionately high for low-income, first-generation college-going students. So check your to-do list. Submit all the required documents. For example, financial documents like your parents' tax transcripts that they may ask for, any final transcripts. And please note that transcripts, they might be asking for official transcripts. So please double check on that. Some schools may not take unofficial transcripts. You also have to review your financial aid packages and award letters. And again, review financial aid packages and award letters with your college counselor. You can review them with us during our Cash for Colleges, or you can just contact your local CALSOAP coach if you have one at your high school. And please make sure to review these aid packages, because we don't want you to be like, oh, miss, I forgot to check them with you, and now I owe them $6,000. I don't know how I'm gonna pay that. So that's what we're trying to avoid. That's what we're here for. We're here to help. Visit the colleges, go to the colleges if you can. Like now, if you've been accepted to them, go take a little trip, take a little drive if they're local, check them out. You can even hop into classes if you want. So that's what's cool. And then don't forget to do the SIR. So you have to complete the statement of intent to register. So just say, yes, I'm going here. No, I'm not going here. And please tell them no, that you're not going there. And the reason for this is because there can be students that are on the wait list, and they're waiting for, the school is waiting for you to say, no, I'm not going here, so that they can give your spot to someone else. And then again, complete the assessment, orientation, and counseling. And then please check your emails daily. I know this isn't something that you guys are probably used to doing, but check them daily. I know I check my email like 20 times a day. My notifications are on. Like I have them on high priority on my phone because emails are super important. And does anybody have any questions? So if you do have any questions, you can go ahead and use the Q&A box, and we'll be here.
Perfect. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to use the chat or the Q&A box. We'll be more than happy to answer them. That pretty much concluded our part of the presentation. But the good